The call came at 2 a.m., jolting me awake from an already restless sleep. "Emma, it's Dad." My sister Sarah's voice cracked through the phone. "He's gone." I sat up, my heart pounding against my ribs. Gone. The word echoed in my head, hollow and final. Even though we'd known this day was coming, Dad had been sick for months. Nothing could have prepared me for this moment. "I'm at the house now," Sarah continued, her voice steadying. "You should come. There's paperwork we need to handle." My name is Emma Chen, and at 32, I was about to learn just how quickly family ties can unravel when money enters the picture. Dad had built his tech company from nothing, turning it into a $15 million empire through decades of relentless work. Now, with his passing, everything was about to change. I arrived at our family home just as dawn was breaking. The sprawling Victorian mansion looked exactly as it always had, pristine and imposing, but something felt different. Empty. Sarah met me at the door, her designer outfit immaculate despite the early hour. She'd always been the polished one, the daughter who perfectly fit into Dad's world of board meetings and charity galas. "You look terrible," she said, eyeing my hastily thrown-on clothes. Classic Sarah, always ready with a cutting remark. "The lawyer's waiting in Dad's study. We need to go over the will." I followed her through the familiar halls, past photos chronicling our family's history, Mom's death when we were teenagers, Sarah's graduation from business school, my art gallery opening that Dad had missed because of an important meeting. Each image told a story of choices made and paths diverged. The family lawyer, Mr. Richardson, sat behind Dad's massive oak desk, a stack of papers laid out before him. His expression was unreadable as we took our seats. "Ladies," he began, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. "Your father was very specific about his wishes." He pulled out a document, clearing his throat. "To my daughter Sarah, I leave my entire estate, including the family home, my company's shares, and all associated assets." The words hit me like a physical blow. I waited for the rest, for my name to be mentioned, but there was nothing. Just silence, heavy and suffocating. "That's it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "He left me nothing." Mr. Richardson shuffled his papers uncomfortably. "I'm afraid so, Miss Chen. Your father's will is quite clear on this matter." I turned to Sarah, who sat there with an expression I couldn't quite read. Was it pity? Triumph? "Did you know about this?" She shrugged, examining her perfectly manicured nails. "Dad always said he wanted someone responsible to take over the company, someone who understood business." Her eyes met mine, cold and distant. "Let's be honest, Emma. You chose to pursue art instead of joining the family business. What did you expect?" The room started to spin. I had known Dad was disappointed in my career choice. But this felt like a final rejection, a posthumous slap in the face. "I need some air," I muttered, stumbling to my feet. But before I could reach the door, Sarah's voice stopped me. "Oh, and Emma, you'll need to move out of your apartment by the end of the month. It's technically part of Dad's property portfolio now, so—" I whirled around, stunned. The apartment I'd lived in for the past 5 years, the one place I felt truly independent, was actually owned by Dad. "You can't be serious." Sarah's smile was all business. "I'm just following Dad's wishes. You understand, don't you? It's nothing personal." Nothing personal. As if evicting your own sister was just another day at the office. I fled the study, tears burning in my eyes. In the hallway, I caught a glimpse of myself in one of the many ornate mirrors. Pale, disheveled, lost. How had it come to this? That night, back in my soon-to-be former apartment, I sat surrounded by my paintings. Each canvas represented hours of work, dreams poured onto fabric in swirls of color. Dad had never understood my art, never seen it as anything more than a hobby. But it was my life, my passion. And now, thanks to his final act of disapproval, I was about to lose everything. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Don't forget to leave the keys with security when you move out. And Emma, try not to make this difficult." I stared at the message, anger and hurt warring inside me. Sarah had always been Dad's favorite, the perfect daughter who followed his path without question. But this felt different. This felt like betrayal. The next few weeks passed in a blur of boxes and goodbyes. My gallery customers were sympathetic but distant. News of my family drama had already spread through our social circles. Sarah, meanwhile, wasted no time settling into her new role as CEO of Chen Technologies. I watched from afar as she gave interviews about continuing our father's legacy and keeping the business in capable hands. The day I handed over my apartment keys, something inside me broke. I had nowhere to go, no safety net to catch me. My art sales barely covered living expenses even when I had free housing. Now, I was truly on my own. "You really should have thought about your future," Sarah said when I called her, desperate for help. "Dad tried to teach us about financial responsibility, but you never listened. This is just a natural consequence of your choices." I ended up moving in with my best friend Grace, sleeping on her couch while I tried to figure out my next move. Each morning, I'd wake up to news headlines about Sarah's latest business triumph or social appearance. The papers loved her story, the devoted daughter carrying on her father's work. Nobody seemed to care about the other daughter, the one left with nothing. But fate had other plans. 1 month after Dad's death, I received an unexpected call from Mrs. Zhang, our old housekeeper who had practically raised us after Mom died. "Emma," she said, her voice urgent, "there's something you need to know about your father's study, about the safe behind his portrait." I sat up straighter, my heart racing. "The safe? What about it?" "Your father made me promise not to tell anyone until after the will was read. But now," she paused, taking a deep breath, "there's something inside that safe that changes everything. And only you know the combination." "What are you talking about?" I asked, confused. "I don't know any combination." "Think back," Mrs. Zhang insisted. "Remember your 10th birthday? The special numbers your father taught you?" And suddenly, I did remember. A rare moment of connection with Dad. Him teaching me a sequence of numbers that he said would be important someday. I had thought it was just a game. Another one of his lessons about patterns and logic. But now? "Sarah's been trying to open that safe for weeks," Mrs. Zhang continued. "She's even talked about having it cracked. But your father was very specific. What's inside is meant for you, only you." I felt a glimmer of hope for the first time since Dad's death. Whatever was in that safe, it was my last chance to understand why he had cut me out so completely. And maybe, just maybe, it held the key to reclaiming my place in the family legacy. But getting to the safe wouldn't be easy. Sarah had made it clear I wasn't welcome in the family home anymore. And as she knew I had the combination. "Don't tell Sarah about this," I said to Mrs. Zhang. "I'll figure out a way to get in." As I hung up the phone, my mind was already racing with possibilities. After years of living in Sarah's shadow, of trying to prove myself worthy of the Chen name, maybe this was my chance to finally understand the truth about my father's last wishes. What I didn't know then was that the contents of that safe would do more than just reveal secrets. They would shatter everything I thought I knew about my family, my sister, and the true meaning of inheritance. Getting into the house proved easier than I expected. Mrs. Zhang still had her spare key, and Sarah was away at a business conference in Singapore. What I didn't anticipate was how much it would hurt to walk through those empty halls again, each step echoing with memories. Dad's study looked exactly as it had the day of the will reading. His portrait still hung above the fireplace, stern and imposing, watching my every move. I approached it carefully, my hands shaking as I lifted it from the wall. There it was, the safe, small and unassuming, but potentially holding answers to questions I've been asking my entire life. I closed my eyes, breathing deeply as I recalled that day 16 years ago. Dad sitting beside me, patient for once, teaching me the sequence. "Remember, Emma," he'd said, "these numbers tell a story. Your story." 7 to 24, 12 to 9, 3. My birthday. The day Mom died. The number of paintbrushes in my first art set. The safe clicked open. Inside was a single envelope, thick with documents and a USB drive. My heart pounding. I opened the envelope and began to read. "My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, it means you remembered. You always were more observant than anyone gave you credit for, especially me. I owe you an apology, one that's long overdue." Tears blurred my vision as I read on. The letter explained everything. Dad hadn't cut me out of the will out of disappointment. He'd done it to protect me. To protect both his daughters from a truth he carried for years. Chen Technologies, his $15 million empire, was built on stolen technology. He'd taken the core innovation from a former partner, driving the man to bankruptcy. That partner had died penniless, leaving behind a daughter who'd grown up in foster care. The guilt had eaten at Dad for years. He tried to find the daughter to make amends, to return what he'd stolen. But she vanished. The company's success was tainted, every dollar earned stained with betrayal. The USB drive contained proof, emails, contracts, the original patents, everything needed to expose the truth. I couldn't leave the company directly, Dad wrote. The board would have immediately made you CEO, and you would have been legally liable for what I did. Sarah, she's different. She understands business, understands that sometimes things get messy. But you, Emma, you have your mother's heart. You see the world in colors of right and wrong, not profit and loss. So I made a choice. Sarah gets the company, but you get the truth. And with it, the power to decide what happens next. I sat there, stunned, as the implications sank in. Dad hadn't rejected me. He trusted me with something far more important than money. He'd given me the power to right a wrong that had haunted him for decades. But before I could process what to do next, I heard footsteps in the hallway. I knew you'd try something like this. Sarah stood in the doorway, her face flushed with anger. She must have cut her trip short, somehow knowing I'd make this move. How dare you break in here? This is my house now, or have you forgotten? Did you know? I asked, holding up the letter. Did you know what Dad did? Her expression flickered. Just for a moment, but it was enough. Of course I knew. Dad told me years ago. It's how business works, Emma. Sometimes you have to step on people to get ahead. There's a woman out there who grew up with nothing because of what Dad did, I said, my voice shaking. Her father died thinking he was a failure. Sarah's laugh was bitter. And what are you going to do about it? Expose everything? Destroy the company? You'd be ruining yourself too. The Chen name would be worthless. She stepped closer, her voice softening. Be reasonable, Emma. I can make this right. Come work for me at the company. I'll give you back your apartment, set you up with a nice salary. We can be a family again. For a moment, I wavered. The offer was tempting. A chance to reclaim my old life, to feel secure again. But then I thought about Dad's words. You have your mother's heart. No, I said firmly. I can't pretend this is okay. That poor woman deserves to know the truth. Sarah's face hardened. Then you leave me no choice. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling security. They'll be here in minutes. It's your word against mine. Who do you think I'll believe? The rightful owner of this house or the jealous sister who broke in? But I wasn't listening anymore. I was looking at the USB drive in my hand, remembering all the times I'd stood in Dad's shadow, feeling like I didn't measure up. Now I understood. He'd been preparing me for this moment all along. You're right, I said, shocking her into silence. It is my word against yours, but it's also these documents, these emails, these patents. And tomorrow morning, every major news outlet in the country will have copies. You're bluffing, she whispered, but I could see the fear in her eyes. Am I? You said it yourself. I never understood business. Never understood when to stay quiet, to play along. So what makes you think I'll stay quiet now? The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah stared at me, really seeing me perhaps for the first time. Not as her artistic little sister, but as someone capable of destroying everything she'd inherited. What do you want? She finally asked. Justice, I replied simply. We're going to find that woman, the daughter of the man Dad wronged, and we're going to make it right. What followed was months of intense negotiation, legal meetings, and hard conversations. We found her, Rebecca Torres, now 35, working as a teacher in Oregon. When we told her the truth about her father, she wept. Not for the money she'd lost, but for her father's vindication. In the end, we restructured the company. Rebecca received a third of the shares, her rightful inheritance. I received another third, not because I wanted it, but because Dad had been right. The company needed someone to be its conscience, not just its business mind. Sarah kept the final third in her position as CEO, but something had changed in her. The day we signed the new contracts, she pulled me aside. I'm sorry, she said quietly, not just for how I treated you after Dad died, but for who I became, for thinking money was more important than family. It wasn't an instant fix. Years of hurt don't heal overnight. But it was a start. A year later, Chen Technologies had transformed. Under Sarah's business acumen, my creative input, and Rebecca's fresh perspective, we turned it into something we could all be proud of. The company now funds art programs in underprivileged schools, my passion project. Rebecca established a scholarship fund in her father's name for young entrepreneurs. And that's safe. We kept it, empty now but serving as a reminder. Sometimes the greatest inheritances aren't measured in dollars and cents, but in the courage to stand up for what's right. Dad's portrait still hangs in the study, but I see him differently now. Not as the stern businessman who seemed disappointed in my choices, but as a father who trusted his artistic daughter to paint a better future, one brushstroke at a time. Sarah and I still have our moments of tension, our old habits of competition and mistrust. But now when I look at her across the conference table or at family dinners, I see something new in her eyes. Respect. Not for who she wanted me to be, but for who I am. As for me, I kept painting, but now my gallery shows tell a different story. They're about family, redemption, and the complex colors of truth. My latest piece hangs in the company lobby, a portrait of two sisters, standing together, neither one in the other's shadow. Sometimes visitors ask about it, and Sarah always tells them the same thing. It's about inheritance, not the kind you can put in a safe, but the kind that lives in your heart. She's right. Some inheritances are measured in millions, others in moments of truth. Dad left us both. We just had to learn how to balance the books.